I'm Drew Frampton, and for over a decade, I've been in the mortgage industry. In other words, I put people in debt for a living. My clients range from tech CEOs to mailmen, and it's given me the unique opportunity to see the financial underbelly of Silicon Valley. I spent the last month renovating my garage and setting up a podcast studio to give you an inside look of the Bay Area. I'm Drew, and this is my garage. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Drew's Garage. Today I have Katie Riddell here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Tell me about getting into the real estate industry. What was your, actually before that, what did you do before you got into real estate?
So, graduated from college in 2009 when the economy was just horrible, right? Wasn't that pretty much the bottom for you? You were already in the industry at that time.
I was already in. It was devastating.
Yeah. So no jobs. The housing market was obviously also having a struggle, but the jobs were not there. So when everyone was graduating, the job fairs, there was like 0 people. So I was just like, hey, game plan B, and ended up traveling. So I pieced out to Australia, lived there for 6 months.
Not a bad place to go.
It was awesome. We did a year and a half of summer, right? So I left like end of our summer, which is the beginning of theirs, and then came back right when the summer was ending.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So while I was there, I ended up working for a car dealership. Okay. It was Ferrari.
And how'd you land that?
Just going door to door. Just like, hi, are you hiring?
All right.
Are you hiring? And then ended up going in there and they had a need and I was working as a receptionist. Okay. So it was a really fun experience, and I never thought I would be doing sales. You know, I also had that stigma, like, salespeople, like, don't sell me. If I have a need, I will find it myself.
Sure.
But working with Ferrari, it wasn't like any of those salespeople were selling people Ferraris, you know?
And Ferrari, I mean, obviously most people here probably know, but we're talking cars.
Yes, luxury cars.
Yes, not just any car.
They were really pretty to look at. Loud when I was answering the phone and all the guys were revving the engines. I was like, hey, who is this? You know? But just observing all the salespeople that were selling the Ferraris, they're not trying to get you into like one of the Ferraris today, right? These people are well qualified, they have money, they want a fun car. Right. So you're just helping them get the one that they want. You know, what color do you want? Red, black? You know, what kind of rims? So that kind of changed my perspective. And while cars were not my thing, I knew housing was. Right. I was always that nosy friend who was like, give me the layout. What kind of material is this? So while I was there, I was able to put my experience with that into like wanting to pursue real estate.
Interesting. Okay. So, and you were in Australia, which isn't the worst place ever. Yeah. So Ferrari's unique in the fact that, you know, it's not like their car is about to break down. They have to get a new one and they're struggling to figure out, do I get a car or a bike? They might already own 1, 2, 5 cars.
Definitely.
Ferrari's more of this, discretionary decision that they're making. How does that fit with real estate? I mean, a home, you kind of have to have a home to live in, right?
Yeah, way to tie it in. Yeah. But kind of like with cars, right? Is it a lease? Is it a rental, or do they own it? So housing too, you know, some people rent, some people lease, sometimes people Airbnb. There's like so many different housing options. Okay. And you and I work with people who want to actually buy and invest in a home.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
One thing that I liked about that is just, again, finding the need. So do you want to buy? When do you want to buy? How can I help you achieve your time frame? And then what home is right for you? So that just kind of seemed like a fun environment to be in. You know, it's the biggest purchase people generally make. And how do we make it fun and educational so they understand like what they're doing? Yeah.
And I mean, maybe a little bit more expensive than a Ferrari, but not much.
Yes, I mean, some of the homes, right? I mean, Ferrari, I think it was like 150 plus for a Ferrari, so that's definitely a home in some areas. And at the bottom of the market, when I started, we could definitely buy a home for that amount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me, 2009. Just jobs in general, real estate in general wasn't very good. You left, you came back, you said 6 months?
So came back, getting my license, that was a whole process. So started around 2011, and that's when we were seeing a lot of short sales and REOs.
Yeah, very different environment.
Very different. Buyers kind of had the upper hand in that situation, and I remember going to a Brian Buffini seminar.
Okay.
And he was saying, real estate is having a sale. When Nordstrom's or other places have sales, generally people buy.
Right.
But we kind of had this environment of like no one wanted to touch real estate.
Right.
Some people experienced some horrible foreclosures or short sales. So, everyone was very cautious.
Absolutely.
But it was a great time as a realtor to get in because it was a slow environment, great time to learn, where I feel like a lot of the realtors nowadays getting in, it's so fast paced. Earlier in the spring, like we've talked about, homes were selling within 7 days. So as a new realtor, you're still trying to figure out what's escrow, what do we need to do with the loan? Like there's so many moving pieces.
Right.
So
by the time they're figuring out the first step, you should already been closed. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got in the business only a couple years before you did, and I mean, not a knock on our industry at all, but there were essentially just gray hair in our industry. And I remember the first time I met you, I'm like, she's way too young to be in real estate. So what was that environment like?
That was definitely challenging.
Right.
I remember going to the office every day and wearing lipstick and dresses and high heels and
Blazers.
really trying to look the part. Exactly.
Right.
And unfortunately now, as you can see, I've definitely come into my own and kind of done the like 180, 360, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm more like, I love working out. I love being comfortable. And I feel like generally the reason I dress up is for other people in the industry still.
Right.
It's not so much the clientele.
Right.
A lot of my clients are people that I meet through the gym, through networking, and they want someone who's real, right? So I feel like when I started in 2011 when I was 22, it was kind of finding yourself, like how do I prove to everyone that I'm a professional? Like what do I need to do? And you're trying different sales tactics, right? And ultimately I found that like I want to be me. This is me. Hopefully everyone loves me. I love everybody.
And if not, then go after yourself.
If not, life's too short. So if it's not a good fit, there's a lot of realtors out there. Hopefully they find one that does a great job for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So definitely starting out your career, you're looking to just establish yourself. So you do have to kind of play the part a little bit and dress up a little bit.
Yes, which can be fun.
Certainly.
Can definitely be fun.
So not only were you young,
but learning it, right?
And,
at that time I hadn't bought a house yet. So it was kind of like I was also learning.
So tell me though about, getting in the industry. Obviously real estate, it's not like definitely like a male driven industry. But you were young and female and a millennial. I guess young and millennial are technically similar in a lot of ways.
I like to think that we're young still.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to skip us some of these days.
Did that play any part at all?
So I guess I wasn't daunted by that. I feel like gender, I was always like, I'm going to do well, I'm going to succeed. Like I didn't think of that as a barrier for me.
Right.
I got great mentors, and you're right, a lot of those mentors were male.
Right.
So it was interesting seeing how they operated. They're very direct.
Right.
Where I feel like that wasn't my MO initially.
Right.
I liked the story. Tell me exactly what you want to do, where you want to be. And then I think as I've progressed over the years, it's kind of like sometimes I do find myself like, what's the bottom line? Let's get to the bottom. Like I want to learn more about you afterwards.
Right.
So I think that was helpful. Kind of like they helped me answer those big questions. Like, what will that do for you? Kind of driving the point. Like, why do you want to buy? What's that going to do for you?
And I feel like sometimes, to be a good salesperson, you have to be a good question asker, right? And really dive into, what's the motivating factor? Like you said, what's that going to do for you? Instead of just skirting around that and being either too timid or just the fact that they want to buy, you get so excited. You're just like, okay, yes, whatever you say. You want to buy something? Let's go buy something.
Yeah, let's get in the car and go.
Instead of actually trying to provide a service and possibly, change their mind on something, right? Maybe they want to buy a single family home when they come to you.
Yeah.
But once you investigate and do that discovery, you find out, boy, that condo makes a lot more sense.
Exactly, and that's part of the journey with every home buyer and seller. So trying to get to the bottom of their motivation. Sometimes that's changing too. Maybe they had a parent that said buying is a good idea, and that hasn't necessarily resonated with them yet. So they're like, everyone's telling me I should buy. It's a good idea, but then like why? So maybe like from you. You know, I feel like you are such an asset to have. You're always good at breaking down the figures, and you're not like, oh, what can you qualify for? It's like, what are you truly comfortable with payment wise and down payment, and 10% down, 20% down. Like, having you there to actually run the numbers is very like relieving for the buyer.
Yeah, because if they think that they have to do something when maybe they don't need to, or sometimes they come in and they want to because mom and dad said, hey, you have to put 20% down, but they've got all this student debt and car loans and credit cards and other scary things. Boy, maybe wait a year, right? Pay off all that debt and then come back and buy, or maybe put less money down, or maybe change your perspectives. There's so many things to consider. So what I find, and it's changed a little bit, and probably because I'm getting older, but is that real estate for our generation is different than for our parents or our grandparents' generation, where it was the American dream. And I feel like the American dream, especially in our area, isn't even always about real estate. It's about that startup life, or there's so many other things,
like
right?
Investing, right?
Yeah.
It's like everyone wants to have a comfortable retirement,
right?
So do you do that through buying homes, investing in the stock market, and then also your day-to-day life, like you're saying? A lot of people like that startup environment because of the freedom during the day. They don't have to be in the office. There's flexibility there. So I think our generation just wants the options.
Yeah, freedom. Yeah, really, like that flexibility.
Yeah.
So how do you, when you're talking with young people, and define that however you want, how do you talk about real estate with them?
Again, kind of just trying to get to the bottom of their motivation. Why do they want to buy? Why do they want to sell? Are they trying to sell and move up into a bigger house, a different area? And it's challenging with every client, which is also fun, right?
Sure.
No story is the same. So kind of like, what's their background? What are their goals? And trying to help them achieve it. So like financially, like you're saying too, student debt, down payment, gift funds, like every scenario is a little different. But you're right. That's the most challenging thing when working with clients. What's their time frame and what's their motivation?
Right.
And a lot of the time, the extra struggle on top of that is they don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I always, in my side, because it's more numbers, there's so many rules of thumb, right? You need to have, your housing payment be X percent of your take home, right, is a big one for people. And it's funny, it depends on who they are talking to, who their parents are, who they read, what that number actually lands on. But there's so many other things that a one-size-fits-all rule of thumb just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with just real estate in general. We as humans kind of look around us and our surroundings and our parents and say, well, gosh, my parents bought when they're 21, right? Yeah. I'm 31, I haven't bought yet. What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that like there's that FOMO going on, but there's definitely that testing and staging and saying, am I succeeding in life? What am I doing here? So I usually get people starting to ask those questions about real estate and starting to dive into the housing market when friends and family
start doing it.
Yeah. But I feel like, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like typically people don't actually, that motivation doesn't really come about until there's some kind of life change.
Yeah.
Right?
Like there's so many studies, right, that single women are some of the biggest drivers and some of our biggest clients when it comes to buying a home for the first time. Single women, and then maybe like married couples.
Right.
But single men aren't as motivated as single women in a lot of the studies that we're seeing, which is interesting.
Why?
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just single women, they're ready to like make a home, whether that's by themselves.
Probably more grounded and not.
Potentially. Yeah. Or maybe they want that security, right? So when you're renting, who knows when the rent's going to go up. Right. Where when you own a home, you know exactly what kind of mortgage you're getting into. Is it a 10-year, 30-year? At least you know. Right.
Absolutely. So, let's dive into your own personal relationship with real estate.
Gotcha.
Okay, so do you own a home today?
I do.
Okay,
Thank you for your help.
Yeah. Very welcome. When did you buy?
So my parents wanted to support my dreams of real estate. Okay. So right when I became a realtor in 2011, so maybe a year later, 2012, they helped me and my brother buy our first house.
Okay, together. Awesome.
Yeah. So
that's a great way to buy. If you're not married yet and you've got another sibling, Also, mom and dad helps.
Yep.
But buying together, I mean, if one of you loses a job, you still have something there. That's
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were great support. So we lived there for about a year and a half, and then my brother had a serious girlfriend who's now his wife. Love her. But I just wanted to give them some space. So I pieced out about a year and a half later.
That third wheel wasn't working out.
I know. Yeah. So I ended up buying my own place again with mom and dad's help. I feel like that's a lot of our generation. They need some gift funds in order to make that first purchase, and then hopefully the equity builds up.
Especially in Bay Area.
Yeah. So mom and dad, they're the best. They helped me with the down payment on I'd say that one's my first house because my brother now has the condo.
Gotcha.
And I lived in there for 2 years. Now I'm renting it out. Helped my husband with his house, and now
were you guys dating when you?
Yes. Okay. Oh man, that story. We were dating. I wanted him to just buy me a ring and move into my house, but he was determined to get his own little investment
Good
going.
For him.
So helped him with the condo in downtown San Jose. It's been a great time there. And then we were ready to buy a bigger house. So when we got engaged, I moved into his condo, rented out my house. And then we were ready for a house that we could enjoy together.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. It's what's cool, and I think this is probably similar to everybody, or most people, is it seems like every house is like a stage in your life, right? It tells a story in a wild way. Starting out your career, kind of going out on your own, meeting your husband, and now together. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is there an end goal in mind? I mean, obviously, you bought a house that you're planning to stay long term.
Yeah, no, that's tough, trying to crunch the numbers and trying to anticipate what the economy is going to do, right?
Right.
So I think in the Bay Area, if you're doing investment or primary to like a rental, it takes a few years to break even. Right. That's what we've been experiencing. So I know for my first house, it took about 2 years in order for the mortgage to cover itself. So that's where I'm at now. And then when it comes to investing, do you want to put your money into another house? Do you want to put it into repairs on your existing homes? Do you want to sell it and capitalize on that payout before the years have passed and now you're paying different taxes? So there's a lot of ways to go, and I do like the options. I feel like I'm blessed with that. But when it comes to investing, I think housing is just where I'm comfortable investing.
And do you think it's just because you're a real estate agent that you're comfortable with it?
I think that definitely plays a factor. I like having an asset that I could see, and especially the trend in the Bay Area, right? When we did crash, I know we've been talking about that a lot today.
Certainly.
It did feel it, but it was the first to recover.
Right.
And it wasn't hit as hard as the rest of the nation.
Certainly insulated.
Yeah. So I think knowing that my mortgage can be covered in rent, that's kind of like a safety net for me. And then I think a lot of the older generation, like my grandparents' age, they've done so well in retirement because they have all these rental properties. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really great about real estate, I mean, I'm sure there's people that get rich overnight with real estate, and that's great. I definitely am not one of those people. It's too much risk for me. I am risk adverse for sure.
It is scary too, thinking about vacancy rates, right? So if you own multiple properties and they're all vacant, how do those few months look?
Yeah, right. I mean, that as you can start to accumulate more and more real estate, that number gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But if you hold on to those homes long term, right? So you had your home that's now a rental. It was a primary residence. One, you got a killer rate because of the person that you knew.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a primary residence, right? And now that's now a rental property.
Yeah.
And you bought it, past tense. So the price was less. The longer you hold something, the thought is that it's going to be, kind of encapsulated at that price point when people are paying more and more rent.
So I think of it in two ways, right? So you have the hopefully future appreciation,
right?
And then also at least you're putting money into like a piggy bank of sorts of your own rather than throwing it away on rent. So
definitely.
Even if like what I bought it for, I was to sell it for, at least I'm getting some money back because I've been putting it into my house piggy bank.
And you're not doing it, your tenant is.
Yeah.
Well, and the really nice thing is it's a no-brainer, right? For the next 30 years, if you just rent it out and just broke even, and assuming any kind of catastrophic things, the house would be paid off. You turn around and sell it, it hopefully is worth more, right? You're doing all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that piggy bank is really nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's change gears here. So you've obviously each home, every time you have a life
Has a
event.
story. Yeah, I like that.
It's
Good
pretty
analogy.
cool. Yeah. But recently you got married.
Yes.
This year. Mm-hmm. Okay. I love your husband.
He's awesome.
He's really cool. He's got impeccable style.
Thank you.
So, but tell me, getting married, this big life event, you're self-employed, right? You wake up every day, you're unemployed, you've got to find new people that want to hire you.
Yeah.
And obviously that's the gig that you've signed up for the last many, many years. How does that work? Weddings don't just happen by themselves, especially if you're the bride. There's some mental calories that go into that.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
I know, it's been a big year, right? Paying for a wedding, bought a new house.
Yeah.
So budgeting, I think that's something that's you could always be better at, right?
Definitely. It's like a diet, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You have good days and you have bad days.
How many lattes did we have this week? We need to cut back next week, whatever. So I think what we try to do is, because I'm 1099, I'm taxed quarterly,
right,
or I need to put a certain percentage away. So every commission I get, I try to put it away, that percentage that I'm thinking that I owe.
Is that a percentage of
my
the
commissions?
commission? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And you put that in a savings account.
Yep.
And you're self-employed, so every quarter you're paying a specific amount that you're forecasting, you're thinking you're going to make to the IRS.
Yep.
And then hopefully you're close by the end of the year.
Exactly.
All right.
But then also talking about contributing to retirement, right?
Right.
So it's like you pay your taxes quarterly, and then at the end of the year, they're like, well, if you pay X amount to retirement, then that'll offset you however much. So it's like this interesting scale of like, where do you want to put your assets?
Right.
And then for what age, like how much should we have as 30-year-olds in retirement? Or so there's so many different ways to invest your money.
Sure.
And there's always risks involved. So how could you be as risk adverse as possible with like hoping to enjoy retirement later down the road?
Right. And there's always some kind of risk, right?
Yes, I know. So I try to do a little bit of everything. I think that's what we should do at our age, right? You should have stocks, you should have property, you should be contributing retirement, just kind of get all your bases covered.
Right.
So that's what I've been trying to do. The past year, I think this year is going to be hard contributing to retirement with.
Well, a house.
The house,
that maybe, and the wedding. Helps.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do, since my husband is salary, is we're trying to live off of like his salary. So
no way.
Can we afford to cover the mortgages and PG&E and healthcare and like all those mandatory expenses based on his money? And then my commission will be like remodeling, trips, savings, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a good way to go. If you have that going where you've got that steady income and then you have the variable income that can certainly do really well. But I mean, if we have a crash, God forbid, in the housing market and people just stop buying for a year, you might have to take a bit of a haircut for a year. It's huge. And what's really nice is I feel like those crashes, people are still buying, right? Let's be honest, right? So the issue isn't when there's the crashes, it's when you do really well, right? You get used to, oh my God, I'm making $1 million, right? I feel amazing. Where in fact, if you average that out, there's a couple of years you made really good money, but you also have the years that you don't make as much money.
And then you and I are both bottom line driven, right? So it's like, great. If there's someone out there who's making millions of dollars, cool. But what are they spending? What are they actually saving?
Right.
So I think that's something that we take into consideration,
Cool.
what's our output, and then how do we make sure that we have some sort of cushion? Because that number is like fun for some people to throw around, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
And I mean, this gets into like the philosophy of it all, but I really enjoy the way that you look at money, right? Like certainly making lots of money is lots of fun, but it's not going to make you happier. You're naturally, it seems like at least, a happy person in general. So you drive a nice car. Hopefully but you guys have one car.
We consolidate it into one. So that makes it okay.
It's awesome. I love it, right? So, I mean, you guys, Josiah drives a scooter.
Or a skateboard or a bike.
But I think it's brilliant because you get the car that you want, but there's not a car sitting in the garage half the time either. So I think just being purposeful and smart about it, and you know, if you want to spend a lot of money on a car, good. It's a horrible investment unless you're buying a Ferrari.
Oh, that too, though. Depending.
If you garage it for 5 years or 10 years and then sell it, right? But you know, as long as you know and you go, okay, hey, we want a really nice car, but we only need one of them, so let's just get one of them, right? I think that's brilliant. I love it. At some point, maybe it doesn't work, especially if you have kids and drop-offs and all that stuff. But for now, I'm sure it works.
Yeah, when we're walkable to his work, I think that's the perfect situation. But moving away from that area, then you definitely need 2 cars.
So obviously, you guys are living off of his income. Your income kind of ebbs and flows. You said that goes into the, you know,
down payment for the house,
the down payment,
that sort of thing. Yeah.
What is the end goal for you? Are you the retire at 35 type?
No, I always say that if I were to win the lotto today and have billions of dollars, like I'd still love doing real estate. I just love interacting with the people. We have such great clients that are so appreciative, and just being able to educate them and be there for their journey, I just truly enjoy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is something that, as long as you made enough money to continue forward, you're willing to do.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
You too? If you won $1 billion?
I would be out of here.
Financial consultant on the side.
You know, I this is funny. I've never played the lottery, ever, until this last one. And
is that the one where someone in San Jose won?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it was funny because I'm like, it's the worst odds ever. It's just throwing your money away and blah, blah, blah. I'm so smart and everyone else is dumb. And I play it and like, you start thinking, God, what if I won?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what would I do? And I was thinking, okay, if I won, would I continue doing my job? And there's definitely like, I might do less of some things and more of other things, but I would still do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key of just knowing that, okay, I like what I do.
And the happiness part, right?
Yeah.
Like, you spend so much time working, so if you're happy what you're doing, then you're like winning in life. Yeah.
Yeah, in our job too, it's not like it work comes and it goes, right? You might have weeks where you work 120 hours, and you might have weeks where maybe you should be working more, but you don't have to.
Yeah. You cannot time it. I think that's the thing that's like semi-fun, semi-scary, sometimes a pain too.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about, pretty much every time I'm on vacation, that's when I have a client that wants to write an offer, go see a home, and then...
Okay, so that's funny that you say that. So I've lately been trying to think about work-life balance, right? And I think it's a complete joke.
Yes. I always tell like everyone, I'm like, I wish I had the perfect calendar, you know?
Right.
You wake up at 5 or 6, then you do like your workout, and then you have a nice breakfast, read the newspaper, and then get going with your day. And it's never like that.
So you're on vacation, and everybody's hanging out at the pool.
Yep.
Right? Where's Katie?
Usually in the room doing an offer or following up on a contingency removal,
drinking
calling the lenders. Yeah, exactly. After you finish the email, right?
Yeah. Is there any way, like, could you be better at that? Like, is there any way where you can just, okay, I'm gonna make this perfect calendar and figure it out?
I don't think so. I mean, offers are due as soon as possible. They have a deadline.
Time's
you need
of
to
the
get.
essence.
Yeah. So I really don't think there's a way to time it. You know.
And do you think that's real estate? Do you think that's self-employment, or do you think that's just a myriad of different things?
Probably a myriad of different things.
Yeah.
Definitely in our industry, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think other self-employed people deal with similar situations.
Right. So, moving forward, what does life look like for you?
Life looks amazing.
That's a loaded question.
So, yeah, this year I have a partner now, Aubrey, so it's been fun just like picking her brain and trying to get on a new level. Eventually we'd like to be working exclusively with the big companies. How do we get into Google, Facebook, the big companies and be their go-to people? We're born in the area, raised, we know it like the back of our hands, whatever that saying means. And I just think that we have a lot of value to give, whether it's just seminars, what have you. So that's definitely something that we'd like to pursue. Not quite sure how to break in there.
Okay.
Cool. And I think ultimately I would just like to be that person where if someone has a need, we could fulfill it, with our networking.
Right.
So maybe your kid's grown and they want a job as an engineer at Netflix, like, oh, we know someone here that can help, just just being that center of the community.
Right. Yeah. I've lately been able to do that a little bit, and it's so much more fulfilling than just putting somebody in debt. But, I mean, it's like we meet so many different people, and typically if you're buying a home, you have a little bit of money, and hopefully that means that you're good at what you do. And they're usually somewhere in their, Google, Netflix, somewhere. And so if you can plug somebody in and make an introduction and it turns out really well, I mean, that's huge. That's awesome.
Agreed.
And
so just surrounding ourselves with those, people that really enjoy what they do.
Right. Absolutely. That's really cool. Well, anything else?
Not that I could think of. I think you got my whole life story. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, thanks again for joining us. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Drew's Garage. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, or do whatever you do best, and I'll see you next time.